Before we start, I do want to say that everything I'm going to say is alleged. So, like Bricks and Minifigs, please don't come at me. I'm okay. I've done nothing wrong. I hope. So by now, I'm sure you've heard the insane $200,000 Lego scandal going on with Bricks and Minifigures. Every YouTuber has covered it. So like every single YouTuber, it's not just Lego YouTubers. Like everyone has covered this, and it's a crazy and long story. But basically, Brian Mansell had 200,000, according to Bricks and Minifigures, the biggest used Lego franchise in the U.S. Consigned his collection to the owners of a Bricks and Minifigs store in Oregon, which is whenever they sell Brian's products, they get a cut of profits. But then they get a job offer overseas, and they email Bricks and Minifigs corporate saying they are considering taking a job. And literally the next day, BAM sends somebody to take over the store, which includes the consignment, all other stuff like that. They said that they will on camera too, and kicked out the owners basically. These new owners basically said that Brian Manziel had a consignment deal with the previous owners, and they've got nothing to do with it. So they should just simply give him his Legos back, right? Well, they don't, and say if you've got a problem with it, then sue. But considering he's trying to get money to pay for his father's hospital bills and college tuition for his grandchildren, he doesn't got 60 to 70K cash laying around. Basically what Bricks and Minifigs was banking on, since he can't actually sue, he just unable to do anything. So he emails provocative YouTuber Reckless Ben, literally specializing in this kind of stuff with corrupt organizations and stuff like that, and he decides to help him. He first went and asked kindly for it back, which obviously failed considering how they're forcing Brian to sue. So he went to headquarters and spoke to the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs, who said if he has an issue, then sue him. And on top of that, corporate said that all the blame falls to the stores, and the stores blame corporate. So nobody would do anything at all to help. After that, he basically convinced an employee of the store to come to the woods and give them the store's owner's number and tell them how they really wanted him arrested. So he created a company called We Steal from Old People because, well, Bricks and Minifigs stole from old people and created merch basically causing it to become locally viral and sold it in front of the store, making them lose a bunch of customers since nobody wants to support that. After that, he went and created a raffle of the Legos Brian owes in order to make it into a criminal offense so the police can get involved. Though technically now it's both a civil and criminal case, which I will delve into further later, which also fails in doing anything since the police were all protecting Bricks and Minifigs. However, they decide to actually sue this time, but not normally, in small claims court. Even though his collection is worth well over 100 grand, small claims only gives up to 10K in Oregon. And claim splitting isn't allowed, so they went through a gigantic legal loophole. Since the Lego is still owned by Brian Mansell as part of the consignment deal, Brian can just sell Ben and some of his friends his Legos for 10K each and go to Bricks and Minifigs, who will not give the Legos, so now they have a court case. Currently, they are unable to go to the store since they are banned, except a while ago, the owner signed a contract under the false pretense that it was a delivery, basically saying that every time they called the cops, they owed 5K. And at the time, they called on them 8 times, so they owe 40 grand. And are unable to trespass, which isn't an actual contract because you legally cannot stop anyone from calling the cops. And the owners were under the false pretense this was part of a delivery. But I'll also explain that later as well. So they went in and talked to the owner, who refused to give it, like, obviously. And as a result, they sued 10 times. And the store doesn't take it seriously and doesn't go to the small claims court at all, losing 10 times. So they have to pay like over 100 grand. But the story isn't done yet. They closed down the store to avoid paying, basically admitting their guilt. And so they sue the owners personally, which doesn't go great. They go to his house to sue, and now they are banned from there. But they can sue because they had a good faith conversation, as required by the courts. And they need to serve the court papers. So they put up a sign at the front of his house in a public property place, so it's completely legal. So when the owner comes out of the house to remove it, they can just serve the papers to him. However, it doesn't go smoothly, as the cops were called on him several times. At first, doing nothing at all and just checking if everything was okay. Then, when they offered to give the papers themselves, everything went wrong. They said they couldn't give it since he declined them, which isn't very legally correct, and when the cops came again, they forced him to leave. On the way back to their house, the police was called again. This time on the grounds of them having drugs in the car, resulting in a 3-hour search with none found, obviously. After that, Bricks and Minifigs basically switched up the entire story and called the police saying that Ben stole the Legos. This resulted in the police raiding his house and also dislocating his shoulder for no reason and finding nothing in the end. They decided to start a GoFundMe to help Brian since they realized that they couldn't exactly get anything back, and they put up a sign legally promoting it, resulting in the police getting called by Bricks and Minifigs, and this time he was actually arrested under defamation grounds, which makes no sense because all of the information about the Lego being stolen was true, and they had evidence as well. He got out with bail luckily, but to make matters even worse, he got another warrant for his arrest, but this time no bail, making it so he would face a lot of jail time. As a result, he went to Mexico to avoid arrest, which is absolutely wild. Now, this story is like one of the most insane Lego controversies I have ever seen. And if you have not watched Reckless Ben's video, I highly recommend for you to watch part 1 and part 2 so far because it's so good. Like, I subscribed to his Patreon purely out of respect and also because I wanted to see part 3 early, whatever it releases. And he is like genuinely one of the best YouTubers I've ever seen doing this kind of stuff. Having to go to Mexico just to avoid arrest, which is super illegal by the way, is absolutely insane. It really shows how Bricks and Minifigs is such a scummy company and how they're willing to go to huge lengths just to avoid having to pay back this money. The worst thing is, the people that are mostly affected isn't even Bricks and Minifigs corporate themselves. It's literally just the store owners of the other stores. Because I've seen so many owners getting harassed and they're losing a bunch of money just because of something that they had no part in. Which is super sad because a lot of them are just normal people that are just trying to make a living by doing what they think are fun. Which is just selling Legos and interacting with people in a community. There's a bunch of good Bricks and Minifigs store, but I'm never going to go back to a store, at least for a while until they've resolved this issue, just because of what they did. And I know for a fact a bunch of people are not going to go back. Like, if people have donated at over $100,000 to Brian's GoFundMe already, then they are willing to not go to the store just because Bricks and Minifigs is such a scummy company. And on top of that, every front said that they should just return the Legos. Like, looking at it from a PR view, this is terrible PR. Like, everything that's gonna happen is worth way more than 200 grand. If they even just gave him all his Legos back and more money, that still would be much better than just like refusing and not backing down. And it really shows how bad of a company Bricks and Minifigs is. I have to be honest, never really liked Bricks and Minifigs as a company. I don't really like how they like prey on uneducated buyers and how they rely on like putting a set like double or triple market price, which is absolutely insane. And just like hoping that some buyer would come in that doesn't know values that well and just purchase it for way more than it's worth, which is very annoying. But like, it's not even like the store owner's fault, and like the store owners are just getting beat up for this, which I think is terrible. I feel like what the store owners should do is like either like leave the company and like start their own store, which would be great because then I also personally like the local stores way more, and I wish I had more nearby me. And as a result, it would also help Bricks and Minifigs learn the error of their ways. And like the CEO, he is not willing to back down. I've seen him like do some Q&A sessions with some other YouTubers. The lies he has been spreading is absolutely insane. One thing that is super interesting is how like the corporate's main argument was that that we didn't actually let you guys have any consignment deals, which is why we're not going to give you your Legos back. Which is literally incorrect, because in the contract it says that they can have consignment deals, which is just stupid because you're lying and you're just forcing people just to make it harder for them. And it's all over 200 grand, which is just the worst PR I've ever seen. The saddest thing is that all of this could have been avoided if Brian Mansell just did a UCC1 form that costs literally $20 and takes like 10 minutes to fill out. And if he did, then he would be able to get all of his money back very easily without needing to go and spend several tens of thousands of dollars just to sue. And I'm assuming that he didn't know, since he's like 80, he's pretty old, and how he didn't really want to he figured that that Bricks and Minifigs is a pretty trusted company, which normally it is. And that Bricks and Minifigs should have just honored their agreement. And usually there is also a sub clause in that, so Brian Mansell can still get his Legos back, because there's a clause saying that if the company is particularly recognized for doing this kind of stuff of like reselling and doing consignment deals, which their entire policy is reselling, then you can get your Legos back, which is a lot harder to prove, but is possible. And so Brian Mansell can get his Legos back. You know, the saddest thing is that Brian Mansell doesn't even want the money. He just wants his Legos back. He just wants to get done with this entire story and just be able to go out and be able to relax. And he's on anxiety medication just because of all it is. Which is really sad that Bricks and Minifigs is causing this on someone. Now we have to talk about the main action that that Reckless Ben himself did, where he basically did a raffle to make it into a civil and criminal offense, and a bunch of other stuff. Basically, he did a raffling off of one of Brian Mansell's sets, but in order to do that, he needs a gambling license, which that takes like a year to get. So he created a legal religion called Scientology Sucks, and in order to make it a raffle, people need to pay. So he would give them $1 to be part of a video, and then they would give that dollar back to join the raffle. And this is all completely legal, but the reason he does this is so that Bricks and Minifigs is unable to give them their Legos, so it turns into a criminal offense so the police can get involved. But the main issue is that, you know, this can be both a civil case and a criminal case, because just like the O.J. Simpson case, it can be both sides. Basically, what a civil case is stuff like in the terms of business and money, and a criminal case can be something like a lottery winnings that are stolen and stuff of the like. So he really tried it, but like it was unsuccessful. Even though I do have to say that he did a good job at it, because like it was mostly for the bit and how it made the video much more entertaining. Another thing he did that is not illegal at all, and I just think it was kind of mean, honestly, was that he basically pretended to be a popular Lego YouTuber and convinced one of the owners in the store of Salem, Oregon, into going to the woods where they did a quote unquote cult in order to brainwash her into basically speaking in like I feel like they should have just like blurred her face, because on one hand I get why he did it, because he wanted information and he wanted to see what the owners were doing, and like the employee was told him that they really wanted to sue Ben, and like they wanted him arrested. But like I feel like her face should have been blurred, because like this is extremely embarrassing being associated with this entire story and how scummy the owners are, and how they should really not be affiliated with this. Another thing I want to talk about is the contract he had the owners sign, basically saying that if you call the cops on us, you will have to pay us 5 grand each time. This is illegal on 3 different fronts. First, well, 2 different fronts. First of all, because he posed as a delivery driver and was just trying to get a signature. Sure, you do have to legally read every contract you get, but if it's under the pretense that this is for a normal thing, then you don't have to read it. And since this is a form of entrapment into a thing, then it's not legally binding. On top of that, you literally legally cannot stop anyone from calling the police, no matter what you do. Which I get that it's not supposed to be legally binding. The point was to make the owner scared that the thing is binding, and then they won't call the cops long enough so they can chat. Which I get why. It's a lot, like, it's perfectly fine to do. I mean, like, I'm not a lawyer at all. I'm like going off of what I've seen on YouTube. And like I've seen a bunch of videos about this. I've seen everything I can find about this. And I will link down all the videos I've seen because quite frankly, a lot of them are very interesting. But like a lot of the stuff that Reckless Ben did was mostly for the bit. Especially like being in a diaper and going in at the end to try getting his money before he knew that the store was closed, and a bunch of other stuff. And a lot of the stuff he did was also like semi-legal. And quite frankly, was some of it was like quite unethical, but it got the results. It got the results he needed. Another thing he did was that he put up sign on the Bricks and Minifigs store saying that basically on behalf of Bricks and Minifigs, we stole $200,000 from an old person, and they sued, we lost, and now we're closing the store to avoid paying them. He basically did the thing where he basically created franchises under the company of We Steal From Old People, which is its own story anyways. I will explain about that a little bit. And how if like he was the franchisee CEO and all the people under him that put up the sign were all franchisees, basically mocking Bricks and Minifigs. Because like, let's say that Bricks and Minifigs does something about it, they say you can't do this, right? He will blame corporate, and then corporate will blame the franchisees. Literally exactly what Bricks and Minifigs is doing, basically just mocking them, which is entirely for the bit. And like, I know this is for a YouTube video, and like, quite frankly, if he didn't make it interesting, I probably would not watch. And I understand why he did it, but like, a lot of the stuff he did was just for the bit, especially that. But it really created become much more viral as a result, and how it made it all look so much more ridiculous that this is the kind of stuff they had to do. Another semi-legal thing they did was that they set up a store at the front of the Bricks and Minifigs store selling their We Steal From Old People merch, which I will link down below because I think it's quite funny and I might buy one. And basically where they go and they tell everyone that they stole from an old person, and if you want you can buy this merch. And they actually did buy, people did buy the merch, which is actually pretty surprising. And basically that's semi-legal because you legally cannot stop people from going into a store. And although they were legally selling everything, they can't stop anyone going into a store, which is why it's semi-legal. Another thing they did was that they did the company We Steal From Old People, which is legal, like the name itself is legal, but they made the subline Bricks and Minifigs, basically framing it so it looks like it says Bricks and Minifigs, We Steal From Old People, which is like kind of legal because it's in a way that it makes people think that it's part of Bricks and Minifigs themselves. But it's actually not, and it's all part of Reckless Ben's company. And as a result, that's semi-legal as a result. And we haven't even started on part 2 yet, which is literally the wildest thing I have ever seen. Reckless Ben had the cops called on him, what, like 7 or 8 times, which is absolutely insane. How you get the cops called on you that many times for doing everything legally as well. He did nothing wrong, but Briggs and Minifigs really wanted to cover up this entire story and are kind of like banking on the fact that Reckless Ben will be unable to release this video, which is a bit too late for that now. Basically, what happened is that since since they won the lawsuit, but the Bricks and Minifigs store in Salem Kaiser was closed, they couldn't actually get the money, so they had to sue the owners personally. Which that was the biggest, that was the hardest thing in the entire video, because he had to talk to them once, which he did, and then he was now caught for trespassing, and then after that, he needed to go in, and get the court papers, which is a big story all on its own. Just because they can't go on his property, to give the papers because, well, they're trespassing because they're banned, and as a result, they put up a sign hoping that the owner would come out and be able to grab the sign from the lawn, which is a completely public property place. So everything was completely legal, and then they could serve him the papers. Which he never came out to serve. He never came out to grab the sign, probably because he knew what was gonna happen. And things did not end there, because the cops was called on him like several times. The first time, nothing happened. They were just checking what was happening and completely innocent. But the second time they came, they offered to give the lawsuit, and the police was actually quite compliant, and they actually were willing. They went up and they offered it, and the owner declined it, which is not legally valid, and like they should not do that. And so they gave the papers back. And the third time that they came, they checked everything, seeing that checking that the court was actually a real court, and because they were saying like, oh, this is not a real court, this is just a piece of paper, and you're harassing the owner, which is completely false. I'm still mad at it. I remember watching the video and literally becoming mad the entire time just because of how stupid this entire scenario is. And they basically just saw that the paper was completely legal, everything was right, and so they decided to arrest him. They arrested Reckless, or sorry, no, they did not arrest him yet, not yet. And so they just said, you can't be here anymore. This is trespassing, which they're on public property, which makes no sense. And so when they were starting to go home, everything became even worse. The Bricks and Minifigs called the police saying that they had heroin in the car, which is literally incorrect. Like, they did not have that, which is just stupid. Like, they had to spend 3 hours checking for this, and there was none in there because the report was false. Like, this was like the third or fourth time the police was called on them for doing nothing illegal. Bricks and Minifigs is really trying to cover up the story and making sure that Ben cannot release the video on this, which is literally insane. And to make the matters even worse, when they go home, right? They go home, they realize, okay, we can't do much, and they're just like editing this video, and then the Bricks and Minifigs calls the police, says that they were the ones that stole the Legos, which is false. Like, they just decided to switch up the entire story, and they switched up the story several times. Like, they first said that we had the Legos and that we might give it back to you, and then we might actually not give it back to you, and we've never actually had the Legos, and then you stole the Legos. Like, and they basically called the police and they told them that Ben stole the Legos, right? So there was so the police came and raided his house and dislocating his shoulder for standing still, saying that I can see what you're doing and you're trying to escape, even though Ben was standing completely still and doing nothing at all. And like, he went to jail. He had to pay bail just to escape because of how stupid his entire scenario was. No, this is all because of the GoFundMe as well. The GoFundMe also had an issue as well, which is stupid because a GoFundMe is the most legal way to do this. Like, a GoFundMe is like the legalest way to get money by fundraising. And they got the police called on them. Basically, they put up a sign on public property saying that someone stole $200,000 and please donate to the GoFundMe. which this is all legal. Like, he did nothing wrong, and the police was called on. I'm like, I don't know what expecting. Like, this is like the 8th time it's been called. And they come and they see the sign, and they really want to arrest him. Like, really badly. It's actually insane because they had no reason to arrest him. And we can see police footage of them just thinking about a reason just to arrest. Even though they're doing nothing wrong. And they just came up with the idea of like, oh yeah, this is defamation. Which, it's not defamation, because defamation is knowing that the information is false and still putting it out there in order to harm someone's image. Which they did not do because they had factual evidence. They had literal evidence of every type possible of like stuff like, oh yeah, we'll give you your Legos back and stuff of the like. And it's just stupid. And like, they knew that it was false, but they still arrested him under those grounds. And so he had to go to jail, and he like originally he had no bail and was forced to have jail time. But the judge saw how ridiculous the scenario was and literally gave him bail for $2,500, which is actually pretty decent considering all things. But when he got out, he had now an actual warrant for his arrest with no bail. So he had to escape to Mexico just because of this. Which, that is insanely legal. Like, escaping to Mexico to avoid arrest is insanely legal. So he did come back once he realized that. But, like, I guess Bricks and Minifigs might be able to make that case now. Who knows? I'm not a lawyer to tell you anything. This is just my speculation. This is literally the most insane Lego story ever. All over Lego, and Bricks and Minifigs is gonna get absolutely cooked just because of this, because this is like a lot worse for them than it is for everyone else. The reason that the police are helping Bricks and Minifigs, even though like this is like an atrocity, and like how this should not be happening at all, like the insane corruption in the police force, I'm like really disappointed in our police force right now. Like, how I'm like a proud American. I'm not that proud, but like I'm like an American. I know that our police force and how our legal system is kind of alright, and like how a lot of people are like forced to not be able to sue because of money and a bunch of different issues, and how the police can be corrupt. But this is on a whole nother level. The reason that they were all on Bricks and Minifigs' side, even though they all knew that it was wrong, is because they were all like heavy Mormons. The CEO was, the owners of the Salem Kaiser store was, the police force was extremely Mormon, and I'm assuming that Bricks and Minifigs has made extremely large sums of donations to the Mormon churches, which is why they're willing to help them, because like they're not going to go against their churches and their religion. And as a result, they're basically weaponizing the religion against them, which is stupid. And like, I really wish that I made up this story, because this is like the weirdest and stupidest story ever. Like, you should not have this happening in a Lego community. Like, the Lego community is known for being some sort of jolly and all fun place, and how everyone just chill and like loves building. This is a stain on the Lego community as a whole. Now, like, I have a lot of memories of going to Bricks and Minifigs. And like now I'll never be able to look back on those happily, knowing that I supported a company that stole from old people. Like, this is an absolutely insane story. And I have talked to people that are not in the Lego community. A lot of them are like extremely conflicted in the Lego sense, and are now wondering how bad the Lego community is, because like Bricks and Minifigs is a very popular Lego company. They're the largest Lego reseller out there. So they should be like an actually kind of ethical company. And like, they made like, what, I think around $95 million in just the past year. And they messed it all up over $200,000. Not even that. Like, it's one thing to like have to donate your own money, but it's another thing having to donate stuff you don't own. Like, it's the equivalent of me, like, stealing from an old person, and then when the police come and say to give it back, I'm saying no because I don't want to give $200,000 of my money. It was never my money to begin with, so it was never Bricks and Minifigs Legos. So why are they so insistent on just doing this? Like, it's so much easier for them to just give their Legos back and hope that the Lego community may forgive them. Which personally, it would take a lot for me to forgive them because like they just stole from an old person and only let the publicity take care of it. And the sad thing is that Bricks and Minifigs is really banking on the fact that the hype would all die down. And we'll all forget about it. We'll just come back as if like nothing happened. As if stealing from $200,000 from an old person is okay, which it's not. Like, I don't like this. I don't feel like they should do this at all. I feel like if they're gonna do this, Bricks and Minifigs should definitely give back, seeing all of the publicity. Like, the Reckless Ben video has gotten 2 million views at the time of this recording. And it has been going up. It's the part 2 of it is the number 5 hyped video on all of YouTube, which is insane. It's more hyped than most other videos. I literally bought the Patreon to watch his videos early because of how serious this is. And I never do that. And I'm pretty sure most people don't do that. I remember checking a Patreon. The video had 100,000 views right when it was still only available on Patreon, which is insane because, like, this should not have that many. This should not be this popular. It's a Lego thing, and it's just everywhere because it is. And Bricks and Minifigs was not really expecting this to happen. And once again, I feel like the main victims of this are the actual Stone owners that aren't even affiliated with them. Like, I've talked to some store owners, they don't like corporate. Like, they never like corporate, but they're only part of the Bricks and Minifigs store because they get a profitable name and they can use it and they have a system built on it and a sort of trust. A trust that is now completely broken. And now a lot of people are going to be like completely screwed over because of something that they have no problem in. They literally did nothing and now they're the ones getting screwed over because of Bricks and Minifigs corporate. Now I do want to say that most of the Bricks and Minifigs store owners I've talked to, they're all great people. I've talked to some amazing people. I know some people that have worked with Lego themselves. I've talked to some amazing people that are all like super nice and they all love Lego as a company and how they're just doing it for the love of Lego and how they really just want to talk to customers and just have a good time. But now they're dealing with harassment because of something that they didn't do. It's all corporate. It was all corporate that literally stole the store, which is its own story on its own. I will get into that. Oh, and literally just, it's all because of corporate. Like, corporate did everything. None of it was like the local stores that are unaffiliated with it. I've seen people like do everything about it, and like, it's really sad because corporate screwed over so many people, and it's really not worth it. It was definitely not worth the 200 grand that wasn't even theirs in the first place. I feel like the main issue was really just because of corporate. Corporate messed everything up. Like, why on earth did they steal the store? Like, what they did is that the previous owners, they just said, oh yeah, we're considering this job offer overseas and we may have to sell the store. We're considering it, right? They haven't 100% guaranteed anything, right? And in one singular day, corporate comes and just takes the store back and they're like, you're done. You're done and we will take over all consignment, which they won't do because they're like, oh yeah, we don't know what you're talking about. And they just take it all over. The store is done, which they stole the Lego from the previous owners, and the previous owners are also still suing now. They are also suing because they've got nothing left. They've got no money. All of their money was in the store that they just stole. They just straight up stole the store back, which this is the equivalent of me like opening up a McDonald's store, realizing that I want to do something else. So I decided to sell the store, and when I say I'm gonna probably sell the store, the corporate comes in, they're just like, oh yeah, it's our store now. You can't steal. You can't store it. It's ours. It's absolutely insane. Like, I don't know why they did this. Like, it's super weird. It's like they knew that the consignment was something they wanted to keep, and they've made the argument that several times they've made the argument that they didn't know about the consignment. They would have stopped it earlier if they knew what was happening because they were like allegedly not allowed to have one. But they knew about it because they would see the money coming in, first of all. Second of all, it's extremely odd for them to just take the store back after one day and literally just making it so that the store owners have nothing left. And now they're suing, which is literally insane. They're suing, and they're also going to sue on behalf of Brian Mansell to hopefully get his Legos back, which I highly doubt will get a response soon because this is going to take forever for any results to come out. But I really hope it does because the new owners were really bad to him too. Because on top of that, when like customers came in asking what happened to the previous owners, they were, first of all, they said that they left, and then they changed up the story, saying that they were never the owners, so they were just unpaid labor. Like that just doesn't make sense. And on top of that, they've been saying behind their back that they had heroin and drug on them, which is stupid. And that's exactly what they did to Reckless Ben. They did the exact same thing that they did to Ben to them as well. And that's just sad because, like, they were good people, and while they didn't like Bricks and Minifigs Corporate, they were just like doing stuff with Lego because they just loved the company. And it's so sad because Bricks Corporate just stole everything from them. And everyone's affected negatively by this. No one's stood to profit from this. Not a single person has stood to gain. This is just negative publicity for Bricks and Minifigs. The previous owners are affected negatively. Brian Mansell obviously got his Lego stolen. Reckless Ben was on the run. Everyone's getting affected negatively just because of this. And it's so sad because this could have all been very easily avoided if corporate wasn't so greedy and decided to not keep the sets. One of the craziest things to me is how manipulative the owners of the store was. Like, they originally said that we don't want you here and you're harassing us, even when Ben was talking very calmly and was quite frankly being quite nice and just politely asking for the Legos back. And that obviously failed, which is why we're all in a scenario. And then on top of that, like, they just made the scenario worse and worse because they said that they would give the Legos back. They said they would. They said it, and they put it on everything. They said, if Brian Mansell apologizes for us for saying that we stole the Legos, and then we'll give the Legos back. Which they were not planning on giving the Legos back. What they were planning on doing is getting a confession from him, so they can use it in court and saying that, oh no, we didn't actually steal anything, and here's proof that we didn't steal because he's saying sorry. And they were almost able to do that, but Reckless Ben saw through it, and he actually managed to make a deep fake video, one of his friends pretending to be Brian Mansell, so they can just straight up say that he didn't do anything. And then on top of that, when they send him the apology, they believe it. But then they're like, go and apologize to the owner in store. And, well, they can't go in. And they're like, do we have permission to go in since we're kind of banned right now? And they're like, yeah, you can go in. And so they go in, right? Wrong. They're unable to go in because they got tricked. They're unable to go in because now they're still trespassing. So the police was called them. This is when they revealed that they had the contract and stuff because they realized this would happen. Another thing I want to talk about is how, like, a lot of the police, it wasn't like, there are some great police officers out there in the area. Like, we were seeing during the entire raffle business, how, like, there was 2 police officers. One of them, the newer one, he was, like, actually willing to, help him out. And, like, wanted to actually, like, be a good police officer like he should have been. But then the senior one said, oh, no, we are supposed to protect this company. And then they switched up immediately because of that. It's all because of the insane corruption that happened because of the alleged donations, which, like, I get why they're protecting him on one front. They don't want they're like protecting him because of religion and stuff. But like, this is corruption. This is literally, this is textbook corruption. Straight up corruption. They're literally going against the law, refusing to do their job in order to protect the company they knew that knows they were wrong for money. Like, none of this should have happened. Quite frankly, this is the most gross thing I've ever heard from any LEGO company, and I really wish that Bricks and Minifig could have just resolved this peacefully without forcing Reckless Ben to make a humongous video. But to be fair, I mean, I can't really vouch for Bricks and Minifigs and say that they were doing a good thing, but I think they didn't expect the video to become so insanely famous. Because, like, all of his other videos gets like 100, 200k views max. And then this one gets over 2 million views at the time of recording, and it's still going. And like part 3 hasn't even come out, and that's I've heard that's even more insane. And this is like, they didn't really expect it to become this insane, but like, even still, from a business standpoint, they should have gave the money back, even if it was 100k views. Because this is like the most insane negative PR ever. I really hope that Brian Mansell can get his money back and everyone can profit. And I really hope that the CEO of Bricks and Minifigs gets like completely kicked out, and like Bricks and Minifigs goes completely downhill and just falls apart as the company goes bankrupt. But I really hope that the owners of the franchisees, they want to get affected that badly, because they're the ones that are getting affected most. Because this is their entire revenue. Their entire money comes from buying and reselling under the name of Bricks and Minifigs. And I really hope they can like change their company into something else, so they're not like stuck with this tarnished name. One of the most interesting things to me was how prepared Reckless Ben was throughout the entire thing. For example, he knew that the police was not going to help him, even when the raffle was completely legalized and everything, and they were supposed to help. So he brought the Oregon law book and showed the exact clause that said that they had to help. And like, it's really impressive to me, because like, I remember reading some like his like I remember watching his video about like some of his podcasts and stuff, and like how prepared he was. He's like prepared for every possible scenario. He was ready for everything. And just because he knew that the police would really try to avoid this as much as they could. And like, quite frankly, I think that was really smart of him. Like, it resulted in Bricks and Minifigs struggling a lot more. The police like looking like the bad guys a whole lot more, rather than just like being like, oh, all right, I don't know what else to say to this. Like, oh yeah, you can't legally do anything. Oh, you can, but I don't got the proof. He had the proof right there, and so they were forced to, and it really showed the gigantic level of insane corruption. Another thing I want to talk about is how Reckless Ben got his house squatted. Like, you got squatted because of Legos. Like, I get that Legos are like some crazy thing, and like I'm a Lego YouTuber, so I know how good Lego is. I love Legos. Legos is my life. But like, this is all for 200 grand of Legos. And how the police were squatting him because how Bricks and Minifigs was switched up the story on him. They had no proof, by the way. Literally no proof at all of this. It was just, oh yeah, we know you're lying, and we know for a fact that Bricks and Minifigs is lying, but this is a really good excuse to make it so you guys stop annoying him. And like, they did everything illegally, because like, first of all, they had no actual evidence, and on top of that, Reckless Ben was walking completely calmly. He was doing nothing wrong, but a police officer takes him by the arm and dislocates his shoulder just to stop him, because he was allegedly trying to escape, which was not happening. He was completely still. But it really shows the insane amount of corruption in the police force. I'm disappointed. This is the legal force I have. Like, if someone steals my Legos, I will be unable to do anything about it. because like I can't do anything about it because like this police force is so bad. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, it really shows how bad is the law is, and I really hope that this scenario causes some large legal wave and like really changes the legal system a lot because it really shows how people are unable to sue because Bricks and Minifigs was like, if you've got a problem with what we just did, sue us. We know you can't sue us, so you can't really do anything about it, which is just sad because you basically know you're wrong and we know you can do this, but you can't do anything about it because you don't got the kind of cash to sue us. Which really affected Brian Mansell badly because he's the kind of person that never had an anxiety attack in his life, which neither have I. And he said that he had his first ever anxiety attack because of this, and that he felt like he was dying. Dying because a company that is supposed to legally resell Legos stole his collection, is refusing to give it back, and he does not have the funds to sue. This is like the most ridiculous entire story ever, and I just like I've said this like a million times by now. Bricks and Minifigs should have just gave it all back and just like avoided all this negative press, because like everything they did just like affected negatively their company. Their company's the one that's getting affected the most. All the employees are all like getting cooked as a result. And the one thing I ask of you guys, the like 5 people that have watched throughout this, is that you guys just please don't harass the owners. They're all great people, and like they're kind of like they just like the only reason they partner with Bricks and Minifigs and become a store is because they want the name and they give only 6% of profits. But like I get why people will not shop, and that's why I'm not gonna shop either. But like please just don't harass anyone. Like this is just all because of corporate. Corporate is the mistake. If I was able to go to corporate and be able to tell them how crappy of a job they've been doing, I would. And it's really funny because I remember watching a live stream by ACOB where they got the CEO on stream and they had him like on answer questions, and he was just getting cooked. He had to lie out of his teeth continuously. Like everything he said was a lie. Everything. I highly doubt he said three genuine things. And everything he would say, even if they were truth, a lot of them would still cook his company. But like, it's still a lie. Everything was a lie. Everything cooked him. It really shows how crappy of a job the CEO is doing. And I really hope he gets like overthrown and turns into a new company as well. I hope like what I really want is like some rival Bricks and Minifigs. Like if someone makes something like uh like like if someone like releases a bigger Lego franchise that can actually be a rival, so they could actually become much more ethical. People will decide to, oh, I'll go here, because a lot of people they're forced to go to Bricks and Minifigs because I only have Bricks and Minifigs nearby me. All other stores are an hour and a half drive away from me. But I'm now willing to drive all of that way just so I don't give Bricks and Minifigs a single extra penny. Just because of how stupid of a deal this was. And I'm really mad. Like, I'm actively angry right now. I really wish that Bricks and Minifigs just stopped. One of the most interesting things to me was how Reckless Ben was able to use the craziest legal loophole to be able to sue 10 times as small claims. Basically, you're not allowed to sue on 10 times because that's claim splitting, which is why he can't just sue normally. What he did is that since the Legos are still owned by Brian Mansell, which was part of the consignment deal, and he was able to buy the Lego sets from Brian Mansell. And since Bricks and Minifigs was unable to give the Legos to him, since like they're kind of mean and they're refusing to, he could sue them for being like, oh yeah, you guys are refusing to give me my Legos, and I want all of my money back. And like, 10 people did this, each person for 10 grand. So this resulted in around 100 grand in each time they won. This resulted in the store closing down. This is like super good because this really shows how they were guilty. Because if they weren't guilty, they would have just gave the money. But no, they were guilty, and they literally shut down the store so people will so they can avoid giving them money, which is literally just saying that you're guilty. And I think it was really smart of him. And like that is like one of the most interesting legal loopholes I've ever seen. And I'm very curious if that's ever happened before. Once again, please don't send any harassment to the store owners of any Bricks and Minifigs store. I think they're all great people, and I would highly recommend for you to watch the Reckless Ben videos if you have not, and like subscribe to his Patreon. I think he's a genuinely good dude, and his videos are also really good. Like I'm really excited for Part 3 to come out and to see how this entire trilogy will end, because this is all an insane story, and I'm literally uploading this video early because of how insane this is. And quite frankly, I think that Bricks and Minifigs should get cooked. And I think that the amount of hate it got is completely justified. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it would really mean a lot to me. That is all for this week's video. Goodbye.